I'm Terry Lawson, and you're listening to Terry Lawson Photography Conversations. It's March 14th, 2013, and on this cold and snowy morning, we are in a space called the Studio, just south of 118th Avenue on 94th Street here in Edmonton, Alberta. The Studio is one of many businesses in the community that is part of Arts on the Avenue, a movement that has brought new vitality to this area of the city. Today we are pleased to have with us Tom Picard, a local photographer and a volunteer with the community. Welcome to Conversations, Tom.
Good morning.
I'd like to start our conversation by spending a bit of time talking about how many businesses in the community actively promote the arts. An example would be the Carrot, which is just a few doors north of us. Could you tell us a little bit about the Carrot, like what sorts of things happen there on a regular basis and what your involvement is?
My involvement in the Carrot began with my morning trips from my garden to have someone else make me a good cup of coffee. And it is a community organization, volunteer run. It is a component of Arts on the Avenue, which is loosely an artists' collective, members of the neighborhood who have reclaimed the avenue through arts, whether it be visual, music, or stage. It was the neighborhood where people could afford, the poor artists could afford to buy.
Right.
And we found that there's a lot of us. We're on the block together. So we banded together and have formed Arts on the Avenue.
Well, I go to the Carrot a lot because it's a wonderful place to go, and I love the feeling sitting in the Carrot that you get as far as you allude to the feeling of community that the artists have in that space.
It's very much a claimed space. It's ours. It's a place where art can be shown off freely. One of the interesting aspects of people who come to the Carrot and who come to this space, the Studio, is that art is so free on the Avenue. It's so readily available. It's so open. It's such a normal aspect of the community, very, very unlike many other places.
Now, they show lots of art on the walls of the Carrot, and maybe give me some examples of some of the works that have been up there in the past.
The gallery wall of the Carrot, there is a monthly showing. Again, changes monthly. It is a juried show. Submissions are open to members of Arts on the Avenue. Simply a $5 membership fee to anyone.
I have mine.
Yes. And it can range from abstract acrylics to photography. The Alberta Brain Injury Society has a show once a year where artists from their collective are featured. We do special showings for Black History Month. Our Kaleido Festival in September will have a particular family theme to the photographs. And it's always interesting, and it's accessible.
Yeah. And I think the neat thing about the Carrot too is, as you've said, it's run by volunteers. How many people actually are involved in making that Carrot space work?
The Carrot itself, about 75 people.
Isn't that amazing?
On the roster who come. They are fantastic baristas. My involvement with the Carrot is more, I am on the art curatorial committee.
Yep.
I'm the handyman. I will paint the walls and fix the leak and install a new tap. and I haven't had any art hang there, but perhaps someday I will.
Well,
but it's again, it's the collective. Then there are the artists, whether they hang their art on the wall or have their wares for sale, jewelry, cards.
Yeah, and there's music there too.
There is always music, whether it's the Thursday Boomers jam session in the afternoon. Saturday is programmed in the evenings. Local artists come through. We have the cops setting up shop from the neighborhood beat on Tuesday mornings. We have parents and babies on Friday.
I was there during baby morning one time.
Baby morning, yes, it's very It's you tend to notice the little ones, and they're the future.
But isn't that wonderful though? That
it is.
There's a place like that for that to happen.
It is, yes.
Now, one of the things that also goes on the avenue are the festivals that happen throughout the year. And recently, at the Deep Freeze Festival, which was really fun to be at, it was a great time. I understand you were a volunteer at that, and you had some photographs on display at the Nina Haggerty Gallery, just up the road. That must have been a thrill for you.
It was. The most terrifying moment for me was the card to be set under the photograph. It had a space for artist, and I needed to fill in that blank. And I think I aspire to be an artist. I aspire to be called a photographer. I'm still learning technically. So that was exciting when I got over that hump, and then I had to check 3 or 4 times during the weekend to see if my piece actually sold. So yes, it was very exciting. The Haggerty Gallery was one of the spaces that was used during the festival for the indoor art. The Deep Freeze Byzantine Winter Festival. There was outdoor snow sculptures, ice sculpture competitions, ice sculpture presentations, lots of fun for kids, and it was the most beautiful -10 weather that we've had all winter.
You know, one of the best things about that festival were all the fire pits all across the whole site. Those were awesome.
The fire pits were an absolute joy. People standing around, warming themselves around a fire. What a sense of community, and how intimate. Everyone became family in that small circle, and that feeling spread throughout the festival. Yep. My volunteer role for Deep Freeze was I was a fire marshal, so I got to look after fire pits and the fire tenders, and that was fun.
So how long have you been taking photographs?
I picked up a camera 3 years ago.
Oh wow!
So not long. An acquaintance was lamenting that no one wanted to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning to go out and drive into the countryside. He spoke of something called the golden hour, and it all sounded very interesting and very intriguing. And I said, yes, I would get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. And of course, that was fun the first 2 times.
And as you've spent your time taking photographs, have you found a particular style of photograph that you like to take?
The first adventures with the camera were going out and traveling the Alberta rural countryside, finding old barns, derelict farms, and the history of them. And I've always been a history buff. Where the railway lines were, where the streetcar lines were in the city. So finding something that has a bit of past to it and some story to it. And for me, it's the imagination what has happened
Right.
over that past. How many times did a ball bounce down those stairs in a house? What was family life in the home? Was it would have been harsh. It would have been hard, and all of that emotion that I think, that I feel, can be captured in a photograph. That's my opportunity to see that and capture that.
Now, I guess the challenge, of course, is finding a way to take that photograph to convey those feelings that you have. Are there things that you try to do taking those photographs to help show the viewer those feelings you have in those environments?
I suppose a technique I've been using comes from my personal psyche. Is I'm a logistics engineer. If it has something to do with math or numbers, a manufacturing process, something repetitive, linear, that is the way my brain works.
Well, I'm an engineer too, and I understand exactly what you're saying.
So to find lines, to find the lines of perspective. I've been fortunate enough to have access to some incredible lenses, and I'm finding that wide angle is my calling, because then I can take the math that I see and play with it through the lens into something a little different, and to create a feeling from that.
And the other challenge in those situations is light, because in that old farmhouse, you're in dark shadow typically, because there are no electrical lights to light the space, and you have the bright light from the sun shining through the windows or the doors or the cracks in the walls. How do you take care of that grand difference in light?
There's been quite a technical learning curve for me on that. I've been exploring high dynamic range as a process, and finding that allows me to do one of my favorite things, which is from the outside look in through a window, across a room, out a window to the field beyond, and to capture all of those layers in proper exposure. Another technical aspect is learning to stop down. With software, it's easier to bring something out of an image than when it's overblown and there's nothing there left to bring back, and that's been a technical learn. And black and white. Yeah,
I was just going to say, these old vintage places that you find must be well suited for black and white photography.
Very, very much so. A process in post-processing technique I've been using is to create a black and white layer and play with the gray tones, and then re-merge the two images. And in that, I found that the black and white in and of itself is the image, and I have been told that by photographers whose opinion I trust and value, and whose work I've seen, and it goes back to the old Ansel Adams. If it's a strong image in black and white, it will work in color. If it's not strong in black and white, the color maybe not so much.
Yeah. Now, with your involvement in photography, do you see it as a hobby, or do you want to get, something more from it?
Again, I think it's my grown-up fear that it is something I can't. It's been interesting that I was able to pick up a camera and find that I had a significant enough eye to capture a composition that I'm finding I have technical enough proficiency to use the software that allows an additional layer of creativity from that base image to create something that, yes, I consider art. Will it be my calling to be an artist? Still a work in progress.
Now, I'd just like to, before we finish off our little conversation here, I want to talk about this space that we're in right now, the studio. It's a very interesting place to sit in. There's art all around us, and art's in the works, on the floor. Tell me a little bit about what happens in this place.
This is the studio. It is the primary residence of Glenn Ronald, who is a genius from ink and drawing to acrylic. He has a number of styles. He is prolific. And it was on one of my walks to the Carrot, past the door looking in, where I was invited in and met him. And he's an artist that adopted the Avenue as his studio space. And I thought that was so giving to our neighborhood that, having the time, I offered him a day a week. I said, I'll come and be a grunt for you. I will sweep your floors. I will move your art. I will give you time in exchange for the opportunity to be in this beautiful space. It is the old Poplar Bakery warehouse space, so it's very industrial. It's superb for creativity. There's lots of room to do all sorts of things. And it has a joyful life feel to it. There are now a couple of collaborators working with Glenn who share the space as minor partners, and they have come along because the space is so inviting, because the avenue is so inviting.
Yeah. Well, I think you've really expressed well your love of this area, and I've been drawn into it more and more and more, and I want to thank you for taking some time to talk to us today. It's really been a pleasure sitting down in this place with you.
It was fun, Terry. Thank you. Talking not so much about my photography, but about what art means to community. And it's been interesting that my finding my community has been through art, has been through photography.
Yes, and art in today's world, for people to enjoy it, is so important.
Oh, yes.
For a balance of life.
Definitely.
Thanks again, Tom.
You're welcome.
You have been listening to Terry Lawson Photography Conversations. Interviews with local photographers and those involved in the art scene. I hope you can join us for our next interview.